As the daughter of a Marine, I am a huge supporter of the United States military. One of my favorite movies is Lone Survivor, the story of Marcus Luttrell, a Navy SEAL. Needless to say, I was really excited when I saw the previews for American Sniper. One of the reviews said that the movie would take a piece out of you. They weren't kidding. But for me, the movie was more than just the story of Chris Kyle, but a testament to the seriousness of PTSD. Most of us have heard the term PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Although PTSD can affect anyone who has suffered a trauma, it is most commonly associated with our nation's military. PTSD is a very serious disorder that can have devastating consequences if left untreated. Today I would like to share with you some facts and myths about PTSD, as well as some current treatment plans. Now, although PTSD can affect anyone who has suffered a trauma, for this discussion I will primarily be focusing on PTSD as it affects our nation's military. In the book Fields of Combat, author Aaron Finley writes that in excess of 30,000 Americans have been wounded in action, but nearly 4 times that, some 120,000 men and women, have returned home to be diagnosed with the most common and least visible of wounds, the psychological injury of PTSD. According to the National Mental Health Institute website, PTSD is often accompanied by other disorders such as depression or substance abuse. Thomas Insel wrote an article for the National Mental Health Institute called Serving Those Who Served. And in this article, he mentions that the suicide rates in the U.S. Army began to increase in 2004, passed the civilian rate in 2008, and exceeded combat mortality in 2009. Misconceptions about PTSD, its causes and symptoms, are perhaps the biggest barrier that sufferers and their families face. For this reason, it's very important that we understand some of the common myths and facts about PTSD. 2 of the most common myths are that PTSD sufferers are just imagining their symptoms, and that those who suffer from the disorder are weak. Fields of Combat author Aaron Finley writes that an event that is pathologically traumatic for one may not be so for the next, and as a result, we can conclude that there is a great deal of individual variation in the experience of trauma. It is for this reason that many non-sufferers may find the disorder very confusing. They may not believe that the person suffering from PTSD is actually suffering from anything at all. Other common myths about PTSD are that time will eventually heal PTSD, that current treatment methods don't work, and that sufferers of the disorder just need to forget about what happened. Charles Carson, the author of PTSD, The Ultimate Guide to Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, mentions three facts about PTSD in his book. The first is that long-term studies have shown that symptoms of PTSD suffered by war veterans do not simply disappear on their own, and in fact, they only worsen over time. He also points out that the healthiest way to deal with undesirable memories is to face them. And finally, that decades of studies have shown that medications can work to improve the symptoms of PTSD, and that counseling can help as well. Charles Hogue, author of Once a Warrior, Always a Warrior, points out that many veterans expect that they just need time to go back to normal, but they find that normal is elusive and time is relative. And for this reason, many veterans will choose not to seek help for their symptoms. If left untreated, PTSD can cause high-risk behaviors, failed relationships, substance abuse, depression, and even suicide. But there are a number of treatment methods that do work for PTSD. The 2 most common are individual therapy and medications in extreme cases. They've also found that having a large support group can also help someone who is suffering from PTSD. And for this reason, current treatment methods are combining individual therapy with family therapy. Now, the idea behind this is to give the individual suffering from PTSD the opportunity to open up about their traumatic experiences. And it also teaches their family how they can best assist in the healing process. Another common treatment method is to have these soldiers talk to other soldiers who have seen combat or who have maybe even experienced PTSD for themselves. One foundation that was created with this idea in mind is the Wounded Warrior Foundation, which helps wounded warriors, those who have both physical and emotional injuries of war, to obtain treatment for their disorders. There's also the Lone Survivor Foundation, which was created by Marcus Luttrell, who was himself a wounded warrior. In the book American Sniper, written by Chris Kyle, Chris mentions a conversation that he had with Marcus where Marcus said he healed twice as fast at home as he did in the hospital. And it was with this idea in mind that Marcus created the Lone Survivor Foundation. The idea was to get the soldiers out in the open where they could kind of forget about things and try to get their lives back to normal. And if they talked about their experiences at the time, then that would help as well. In conclusion, PTSD is a very sad disorder that can have devastating consequences if it's left untreated. But there are a number of treatment methods that will help PTSD, such as individual and family therapy, medications in extreme circumstances, and talking things out with another soldier. If you haven't seen the movie American Sniper, I highly encourage you to do so. Although it tells the story of Chris Kyle's life, it also details the very real struggle that many American soldiers face on a daily basis. As the review suggests, the movie will take a piece out of you. It will cause you to think about the selfless acts of our U.S. Armed Forces. And remember that for many of these American men and women, their battle is not over just because they came home. Thank you.
Excellent.